Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out, your global look at news from Taiwan. I'm Tiffany Wong. Violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread human rights violations in the world. And now, with the rise of technology, experts are ringing alarm bells of a new form of gender-based violence, one that relies on artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and the anonymity of a screen. One Taiwanese artist is trying to draw attention to the growing prevalence of digital gender-based violence in an immersive exhibit called They Told Me It's Not Your Fault, and I Told Them Everything Will Be Fine. Today, we welcome the artist of that exhibition, Ting-Ting Cheng. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
First, we want to zoom in on the exhibition. The title is They Told Me It's Not Your Fault, and I Told Them Everything Will Be Fine. What does that mean?
So the title came from a Netflix documentary about Room N that happened in South Korea. The first sentence they told me, "It's not your fault," is from a journalist, if I'm not wrong, that she got a phone call from, at this moment I'm going to use the word victim, from people who are victim of the Room N, and told her that, oh, that was me. Like, the footage you got was me. And I remember she was talking about, if I remember correctly, like, despite how heartbreaking that she felt, because it was a minor and, she can hear her mom talking to her in the background, but she still kind of lied to her in a way, or told her like everything will be fine. And the second sentence is even more moving, is so basically one of the news channels reported on it, and the perpetrator got really upset, saying like, if you continue reporting this, we're gonna have more victims. It's basically a whole ransom situation. And then they decided to continue to do it because they think it's the right thing. And then they started to have victims writing the name of the news channel on their arm while the abuse behavior happened, to let the TV channel know, like, it's your fault that this happened. It's diabolical. And so she was feeling extremely guilty, and she was emotional, and the victim told her, it's not your fault. Like, this will happen anyway.
So what can you tell us about the exhibition?
So the exhibition will create a certain experience for the audience, and it will last around 22 to 23 minutes. And there will be 5 scenes. You'll be walking among them, and that scenes will include, I'm trying to keep some of it as a surprise, but I can mention the first scene is a gallery. So because people coming here to imagine they're going to see an artwork, so the first space I would like to make it like more like a gallery, and to kind of functions as a bridge for people to entering this whole experience. So what would you do after seeing an exhibition and the protagonist seems like not really a big fan of this work? Probably you would like to grab a drink. And then what would you do after having a drink? You might be tired, you might be going home, it's some intimate area, but what would you go next day? So you might going out again. And so the whole storyline kind of involves that. And like many of people, including myself, like we use dating app, we meet people, and we sometimes send pictures to people, innocent or non-innocent, like whatever type of picture, and that's our right and freedom, and seems how the storyline would go. And yes, and sometimes you encounter strangers in the public that made you feel uncomfortable, but I'm hoping the experience would make the audience feel like whatever happened to you, it will be okay.
Conversations around gender-based violence and sexual violence can be really sensitive. How did you approach this topic while also keeping the safety of the viewer in mind?
So first, of course, I think everything is fictionalized. I did some research, like I mentioned, the secondhand research, such as reading report, like textual report from PTS as well. There was like some interview, and also visually, like video-wise, like documentary from PTS, from Netflix, etc. And then I've interviewed Jiang Yiting, which is a journalist who did the report quite deeply about this issue. And I also interviewed Xi Ci, who is a victim of the tech-facilitated gender-based crime, who's also an NGO activist, a founder of her own organization. And I also, from personal experience, from secondhand experience, I'm collecting different stories and trying to, but I think what's also interesting is more you collecting stories, so you realize there's no one image of how victims looks like. It's not a type of people. It's kind of, it can be anyone. It can be like, there are a lot of really young people, like high schoolers who are minors still, or they are highly educated, feminist, middle class women. Like, you can find all sorts of different people who all can fall into being the victims of crimes like that. So to protect this, I think first fictionalized, but also hopefully somehow reflect the stories I collected. And I think that's, again, a balance I have to find. And besides that, I work with a therapist. I sent her the script and she gave me suggestion regarding the whole storyline or little detail about this wording here and there. And I adapted, like change it according to her suggestion. When we exhibited last time in 1994, she also came to physically experience the work before we started. And then that was actually inspired by Netflix. Like, I noticed that a lot of, like, Baby Reindeer, for example, a lot of like series regarding to mental health, at the end of the credit, it will say, if you would like to talk to someone, please visit this webpage. And I tried the webpage, and the webpage will link to all the local mental health facility. And I felt like, if we're touching this issue, I think this is a good idea. So I put it on my own website.
So as you're making this exhibition, I know you're trying to educate viewers, but also for you, what did you learn from your research?
I think what I learned, and probably I want to use the word surprised about, but I'm not sure that's appropriate word, that again, I think it's about how judgmental the society is. I remember I was particularly shocked by the documentary on Netflix, The Room, N, and I felt like I kept imagining that, because so what happened in The Room N, a lot of them were blackmailed. They were first nude, and they keep being blackmailed to send more. And I kept thinking that, imagine a society we don't judge anyone's nude. Then the blackmail wouldn't work, right? Like, so if I don't mind anyone seeing my nude, no one would judge me. I wouldn't lose my job. I wouldn't lose my degree and stuff. My family would support me. Yeah, leak it. I wouldn't care. I don't want to send more to you. So I feel like we kind of like underestimate how powerful we are as a society. We think like, oh, we are not part of this. They're victim, they're perpetrator, we're not part of it. But I really feel like how society behave will really influence the situation. And what I was quite shocked about, it was also sometimes, again, I think this is based on every precinct, every city, every country, it's not generalization, but sometimes how police reacting to certain things like that. Like, I heard stories on how police some of them, of course, were dismissive about cases like that. They feel like, well, there's nothing you can do. And also, I think the other thing is how, I'm going to use the word outdated in a way our laws aren't. Like, especially cyber crimes, like deepfakes, things like that, is really not much of a, organized regulation about this. And I think we really need to catch up with the situation, and we need to, evaluate the harm, because, in Taiwan, we have this cases like, oh, I just used your face to make deepfake porn. So I didn't rape you, I didn't expose your nudity. And, how do we find crimes like that? And also, like, I think there's also very subtleties like, oh, are you profiting? So as if only you're profiting, there will be a crime from it, But I think it's very complicated. There's a lot of harms are done. So I feel like, first, I really think as a society, we need to be less judgmental, just as a whole, And also, I think the laws really need to catch up with the situation.
I think that kind of segues well into our next segment, where we want to zoom out into the prevalence of gender-based violence around the world and art as a form of education. So what role do you think art plays in terms of conveying these global issues like gender-based violence?
I think in contemporary society, we also need to, in a way, as an artist, to challenge something, to talk about something. Otherwise, I sometimes doubt, like, what's the point of things, So again, this is just my personal perspective. So yeah, I don't think every artist believe in that. I don't think every artwork is supposed to educate people. But I feel like if there's an element of that, why not? That's a good thing. So yeah, and I think the good thing, in my opinion, like about artists and media, is we can be very flexible. Like it can be, for example, I know artists who make tabletop games. I know artists who do like this experience, like we do, they are walking tours, and I think like we are not, oh, they have artists do publications, artist books. So I feel like in a way we have the freedom to not being, restrained into a certain media, and we kind of can combine different things. And I think that's privilege that we have to when we want to talk about something.
So your exhibition is also currently part of RightsCon, which is one of the largest human rights conferences in the world. What kind of change do you hope your exhibition can bring?
Sometimes I think I can be a bit pessimistic, I admit. Like, I think in a most ideal world, I really hope this work can reach to people who didn't know this area that well, who didn't think commenting on female or male celebrities' appearance, judging them, doubting their, if it's plastic surgery or not, or slut shaming people. I think to reach the one behind the person running the website and like change his or her, well, mostly his, let's be honest, like this behavior, I think it's really too utopian. That's not going to happen. But I really hope I can reach to people who think they are making, oh, it doesn't matter if I just click on this link to watch it. It doesn't matter. I just comment on this comment. That's their celebrity. They should be used to attack. I think these people, I'm hoping, if the works can reach to them, to realize that, just sometimes have a second doubt before you do a certain action. And also just don't judge people who did.
And what has been the reaction that you've gotten from people who have experienced this exhibition?
I think one of my favorite feedback is I have friends or people who experience told me that they can feel how careful I am. And as an artist, I feel I'm glad the effort was seen, like how I would like to create a safe place, because this is a very, very sensitive issues. And like we all know, I think I'm going to be very bold to say, I think most of the women, let's put it that way, might have certain sexual harassment experience in our lives. And I know to talk about such a sensitive issue is really easy to trigger certain things. So I'm glad people can see like we are trying to be, one of the feedback I receive, I really like it's the word 温柔, like it's a gentle work, and how we wanted to catch people in Mandarin, like 接住, like to create a safety net. And that's the very positive side. And of course, like, I think this type of work, like experiential, hoping you can project yourself into a person, a character that's not you. Sometimes it's not easy as well, because not everyone will feel like that could be me. Well, like, yeah, the other thing is the very positive feedback I really like that I got is people say, oh my God, I feel like that's me. That line really feel like that's exactly me. Like that's something I feel like, okay, that works. But also like, yeah, there are some people feel like, oh, I get a story, but that's not me. Like I don't do things like that. And honestly, sometimes I feel a little bit sad, like, cause I think, again, like this really could happen to anyone. And I feel like when you say you don't do that, made me feel like you're judging people who do. And again, this is a complicated issue. Like we can't force everyone to feel the same way about certain thing. But I feel like, I think if the society can be less judgmental, it will really help the bigger picture.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with us, Ting-Ting.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Zoom In, Zoom Out. For more stories from TaiwanPlus News, you can follow us on social media. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.